Good morning, good morning. Thank you so much for tuning in on this week's Led by the Word. Going through the new building, and they are going to pick up today 2.5 pallets of paint. And all that is just a few of the downstairs rooms. 2.5 pallets. That's what when he was telling me how much paint they're going to get, I was like, this is, it's hard to fathom how really big the office, the studio, the space, the shipping department, the warehouse department, how big all this is. Thankful for what God's doing. Thankful for the scale of this. Thankful for how many people are getting touched. We had one of our ministers reach out to Dad and said from the Orlando surrounding area, from the antenna there, someone got saved with his broadcast. They called in. Couldn't be more honestly excited and honored to be a part of this ministry. So thank you for everyone that's donated. Thank you for everyone that's prayed. Thank you for everyone that's kept us encouraged and the team. We got a lot of people working behind the camera. Here's Brother Zach. He is, who are you editing right now? He's editing Pastor Gene, and it's just unbelievable the output, you know. It's unbelievable the people touched, the lives changed, as Dad always says. I woke up today humble and honored to be a part of this and just thinking about it. So today we're in Job, and you know you're in Job because my wife is using a black highlighter.
It's great. It's supposed to have sparkle.
I didn't even know this
There's
was
no
a
glitter.
thing. That's what I looked over. Well, my highlighters, you know how you buy them in the pack. I normally throw all the highlighters away except for peach, yellow, and blue. Because if they're super dark, you're not highlighting.
It's highlighted. I can still read it. It's right here.
Okay, so Jesse, take us into this. Now, you guys remember last week, if you're coming into this cold, you've missed a lot of the story. So if this is your first one of the book of Job, I'm telling you, go back, watch last week's podcast. Job, was it 1 through 5 or 4?
It was 1 through 4.
We did 1 through 4 last week. Get a quick catch up and then follow through with us today. Okay, Jesse, go ahead.
Yes, I had to piggyback off of Micah because it really sets the stage for what in the world is going on. If you jump into this in chapter 5, you're going to be very confused. It's like you got to go back, read the beginning. So Job has these friends, and when we left off in chapter 4, we finished last week. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing this gentleman's name correctly. I'm going to do my very best. But Eliphaz, we're in chapter 5, he gives his views on the goodness of God in verses 8 through 13, which is what I've highlighted. I'm not going to read them, but they're actually really great. You see how even his friends do give reverence to God. If they're not a little bit misguided into the situation, they kind of bring it out like, listen, God is so great. You must have done something really messed up to make him mad. And, you know, they don't see all the big picture going on. But we actually used the word before we started the podcast to describe the book of Job as dismal. And that's often how we look at it. It's a dismal situation. It's a dismal book in the Bible. But at the end of chapter 5, Eliphaz, he wants Job to understand that he will be blessed again. Like the last 3 verses, verse 25 of chapter 5 says, "Thou shalt know also that thy seed shall be great, and thine offspring as the grass of the earth."
Amen.
This is after he lost all 10 of his children, 7 sons and 3 daughters. So he's trying to speak life a little bit into Job and being like, listen, buddy, it's going to be all right. But Job opens chapter 6 with just lamenting. He continues these comparisons about like, it'd been better if I was dead, it would have been better if I was never born. And he goes all the way into chapter 7 with these. And in verse 7 of chapter 7, he goes as far to say, "Oh, remember that my life is wind. My eyes shall no more see good." And it's easy to make judgments against Job because we know the end of the story. We know the end of Job's story, right? We know he gets spoiler alert, he gets doubly blessed. And it's easy to be like, well, you know, he doesn't want to be alive, but, you know, we know his end. It's fine. But when you're in the midst of your own horrible, awful situation that you're going through, it can be tremendously difficult to not hyper-focus on the now trouble, the now problems. Like he was going through, like that's all he could see. My eyes to see good, no more. Like this is all my eyes are going to behold for my short period of life. This is it. This is the thick of it. And yet we know the end of our story.
But before I say stuff, Eliphaz?
I don't know. I've been saying Eliphaz.
Eliphaz?
I don't know.
I'm going to be honest. If there's one I really don't know, I just kind of read over the word and I recognize the word and the character. I'm like, I don't know. So I see a lot of Job, but my conviction is me as him.
Oh.
The people in my life. There's going to be, if you're not going through something really tough, there's going to be someone near you going through something tough. Can I get an amen on that?
That's the truth.
There's someone in your life. How can we best carry, encourage, and help them through it? Because Job's getting woe is me for all the woe he's going through.
Right? I feel like it's warranted a little bit.
I feel like it's warranted. And I'm afraid sometimes us as Christians, when everything's good in our life, we get the pointy finger and say, no, woe is you. And it's kind of convicting for me. We don't need to be that. We need to be like our Father. Compassionate, graceful, caring, and caring. So carrying them and caring for them through these situations. And I think if we can do that, we can see recovery faster. Churches are so quick when crumbling happens to move on to the next person. Churches are so quick when insert John Doe goes through a traumatic thing and he said, I don't know if I can come out of this. We do our effort and then we say, well, we'll just go on to the next person and help the next person who wants help. I think we need to invest every bit of our resources into that person. Every bit of our time, every bit of our prayer, every bit of our fasting, seeking God, what can I do in me to be a better Eliphaz, to be the friend that they need? Because in the end, what a large chunk of church is, we look at church as the salvation room for the unsaved. Church is the help room for the Christian too. And we can be the best Eliphaz that we could possibly be. We can be tenfold what he is.
Well, I love how your dad does the comparison of the church is also a hospital to help people. You know, a lot of people are coming in sick, not just sick physically, but yes, but also, you know, sick spiritually, sick mentally, and we need to be able to minister unto him. I also like his little, like, kind of unspoken formula that Micah's dad has, where when someone's going through something, he'll let them just absolutely cry it out, you know, get angry, whatever, and then he's like, okay, now we got to start the process of going through it. And so, for example, if you lose a loved one, then he might give you something like the grief booklet. And if we don't have something specifically to your situation as far as literature, then he'll say, you know, this person went through this and this person went through this and they came out blessed and, you know, we're going to get them praying for you. And I love that we have a network of community. That's why local church is so important, that you're anchored in something that is biblically sound, a minister that cares for you, that cares enough to teach you the word and cares enough to lift you up.
Now, I'm having the hardest time remembering this word. Jesus, he's in the crowd of people is around him. The lady has the issue of blood, and she pushes through the crowd, which she should have not done.
Yeah.
In that time, she should have not been near the crowd. And she knows in her mind, if I can get to Christ.
So just touch him.
So she touches just the hem of his garment, and to my mind, that's just the tip. Like, she barely gets any Christ, but it's all she needs. Barely touches any, but it's all she needs. And God says, was it compassion float? No, what did he say flew out of me?
I think it was it virtue? It was
virtue. Someone touched me, virtue flowed out of me.
Yeah.
And I want to tell you, there are hurting people in you, and they're just going to touch what is flowing out of you.
Oh, that's good.
And Eliphaz is like this. He's hitting the bullet points. He's hitting the training. He's hitting the structure. But Job's like, okay, I understand what you're doing. In chapter 6, Job goes on to defend, but I'm going through this. I'm going through this. I'm going through this. Never trivialize what someone's going through.
Right.
You're not going to win a soul. You're not going to change a life. You're not going to help the hurting by trivializing their pain.
No. And also, what Eliphaz is doing here is a lot of what he's saying is true. God does repay, you know, you sow, you reap, whatever.
Eliphaz sounds much better than Eliphaz.
I think yours might be actually more correct. Who even knows? But what he was saying might have been biblically sound, but it wasn't exactly applicable to the situation. You know what I'm saying? So you need to use wisdom and, you know. So Job is going through this, and he's like, my end is worse than my beginning. I should have just never had a beginning, right?
Amen.
And we get like that. We're like, man, you know, I wish, my gosh, how many of us had that thought? Like, it would have just been better if I'd never been born. Like, whole It's a Wonderful Life scenario. But yet, we know the author of our story, and we know the end of our story. In Romans 8:28, we know that all things work together for good of them that love God. So what you're going through now is not your end. Micah's dad just preached a sermon, and it is amazing. And we were talking about ministering to other people going through things. That sermon is incredible, and it's called, If You're Not Dead, God's Not Done.
Oh, we got the little stickers upstairs. I was about to pull a sticker off and just put it on my shirt today. It says, if you're not dead. If you want one of those stickers, message us on Facebook, or if you're on YouTube, you can call 877-226-4088. We will get you one of those stickers.
Oh, yeah.
I'm putting one right on my cup. It's a simple thing to say, but it is so encouraging in the middle.
Yes, and I mean that would have really helped in this situation. So in chapter 8, we get introduced to Job's friend Bildad. And can we just say he was kind of mean?
I'm right here on Bildad.
I'm just going to go into one little part in verse. I wrote this down, but I think it's 4. Yes, in verse 4, he kind of insinuates that Job's children were sinning against God, and that's where they, and I'm quoting, cast away. Like he was basically saying, man, your children died. They probably deserved it though. And it's like, whoa, what are we doing here? Like he was hateful, was he not?
Let's rewind. Let's really just break down this. Bildad is doing this because Bildad really thinks this.
Oh yeah.
It's not like Bildad's like, oh, Job's hurting, here's my chance to kick him.
Right.
Bildad really thinks this is right, and he really feels this is the approach.
Yes, this is his conviction.
This is what he thinks. So I want to say, I don't think Bildad's doing this to be malicious. I think Bildad's doing this because he's inconsiderate. And he's not graceful. He's not full of compassion. He's not full of virtue. He's not Christ-like.
Yeah, that's fair.
So when you see someone going through stuff, your flesh and human interaction is sometimes, well, they did get the repayment for some of the things they did.
But that is so unhelpful, even if it's true. Like
it's more than unhelpful. It's unhealthy.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Because we can look at someone coming to, I talked to a young man the other day, and he said, Mike, I'm struggling. You know, I got this huge ticket, and it's a lot of money. You know, I got house payment, I got car payment, I got this, I got this, I got this. One thing, Dad went and sewed and helped to pay for the ticket, one. But thing number 2, God moves supernaturally in so many ways to help him cover it. But how many Christians would look at that young man and say, well, you were speeding.
You deserve that ticket.
You deserve that.
Yeah.
And can I tell you what that is? That is the exact opposite of Christ, because Christ is grace.
Yes, I was going to say there's a lack of grace in that.
There's a lack of, let's say, I don't think Job deserved any of this. I know Job did not deserve any of this.
He was just. He was upright.
He was just. He was upright. But even if Job did, what is Bill? Say his name again.
I think it's Bildad.
Bildad. What's Bildad's purpose here?
Right.
To rub something in his face? No. We got to understand we serve a God of grace. And for every finger you're pointing at somebody, you need to think of all those stones that need to be thrown at you.
Right.
And you may think, well, I haven't been judged for those yet, so are they serious? Whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap.
Right.
Now, if you want to hear a great sermon on sowing and reaping, go watch Brother Mickey on tilling it under.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. I had to run mixer that night. I just sat upstairs and cried with my little headset on listening to this. God's grace tills some seeds under you don't have to reap from.
Yes.
But Bildad's over here pushing it. Oh, this could be you, Job. I've thought about it. I've really thought about Job. I think you're a bad guy.
Right? Like Eliphaz kind of hinted at it, but Bildad was just driving
he drove
it
it
home.
home.
Like, yeah, he was like, this is you.
It's not caring, it's not Christ-like, and it's not productive.
Boo this man. So
But you know, I can boo him, but our minds go there.
right.
Our minds see people struggling. Our minds see people hurting. And if your first instinct when you see a Christian hurting is, oh, I bet I know why they're going through this. Instead of, how can I fast? How can I pray? How can I get them out of this? That's on you.
Oh, yeah.
That's on us as a Christian whole. And that's on us saying, God, I got a lot of work left on me. As Dad says he thinks all Christians need a hat that says under construction.
Yes.
We can put that on and say, Lord, I hope inspection day ain't today because I am failing.
Oh, yeah.
This is some convicting stuff that we can look. I've always read the Job story just as Job's perspective. Just like, look at Job. Like, look at Job. And now I've put myself in some of these other guys' shoes and I'm like, man, I got work to do.
Oh, yeah. 100%. In chapter 9, we see Job's kind of, not rebuttal, but like explanation to Bildad. In verse 2, it says, how should a man be just with God? Do you guys, like, I don't know if you're on the internet that much, but there's a meme right now where it's like, rip Apostle Paul, you would have loved Twitter, you know, where you could just instantly communicate with churches, right? It's like, rest in peace, a very deceased person, you would have loved modern technology. I feel like saying, rip Job, you would have loved the veil being torn.
You would have loved
Jesus. You would have loved having the infinite, like, that mediator. Like, when I read that, I was like, oh, Job, like...
Can I tell you what my notes say about this?
Yeah.
We can take a moment and reflect. There are human limitations to understanding divine justice, and we need a mediator.
Yes, when he was talking
There's
about that.
got to be,
Oh.
if we got God, there's got to be something to break down this understanding.
Yes.
If we were given Christ. High five. Right on the same page, we study separately. And I want that, sometimes me and Jessie study together, but we never study led by the Word together.
We don't. No, we just don't. The timing is not lining up.
No, we study a lot of other topics together if we're doing a Game Changers or something. And I love how we both got the same thing here. There has to be, if you're in a place and you're like, I do not understand, understanding your flesh, there is just limitation.
Oh, yeah.
And if you think, oh man, I don't understand, I can't believe I don't understand, you're in that isolating, I don't understand. Can I tell you how many huge mega ministry pastors have been in places they don't understand?
Oh, yeah.
You want to know the number? All of them. 100% have been in places where they're like, God, I do not understand. If we could do control find in ministers' lives and look up, I don't understand, it's going to highlight a bunch. It's not just you, but you got to back up and say there is a mediator. There is a Christ. Jessie said it best. The veil has been torn.
Yes.
Was it you talking to me, or was it someone here saying you didn't realize the veil was so big?
It was me.
Okay, Jessie.
Yeah.
So Jessie's like, Micah, did you know the veil was big? And I said, the veil had to be big because it covered so much.
Yeah, I did. 31 years old, just realized.
You think
this.
of where Job is. There is so much Job can't see.
Yeah.
And then this whole thing is torn. And I know the veil actually comes a little bit later after this, quite a bit later. But spiritually, we're talking about this veil is enormous. Mm-hmm. And it shreds. And there is such a new connection, such a new understanding. So if you're in a place where you feel I'm looking through the glass darkly, keep seeking, keep praying, keep asking, keep knocking. Hindsight's 20/20, and God's going to bring you to a place of understanding. Or if He doesn't bring you to a place of full understanding, He'll bring you to the grace of throughment.
Yes, you're not stuck here in
No.
this situation. And even when Job is like, I can't stand next to God, like, who am I, right? He still takes this chapter to describe God's might and His power. Even in this horrible place he finds himself, he still recognizes the greatness of God. And I love that. In chapter 10, which is our finishing chapter, he goes back into how he is so done with living. He believes God is the one behind all of this. Like, this is a personal against Job attack from God, right? He's like, I don't know what I've done to kindle this great Creator's wrath, but I've done it. Like, God is after me. But he does not know about Satan behind the scenes. That's why it's really important you read the first, few chapters here. He doesn't know that Satan came to God and was like, I'm going to get him. I'm going to get Job. We were just talking about that this week, about behind the scenes, maybe like 2 or 3 days ago, about the things that you don't see spiritual warfare going behind the scenes. And I love that you were talking about a glass darkly. We don't always know what's going on. We just know that whatever Satan designs for harm, to destroy us, to ruin our lives completely, God's like, no, I'm going to work it for the good. We even see that in the Old Testament, where people set up things to be a curse against the children of Israel, and God's like, I took that curse and I turned it into a blessing. We read that in the first 5 books of the Bible, and I love that, how no matter what the enemy's forming, what we can't see behind the scenes, God's like, no, I'm bigger and my plan's better for you. And He's working it already in the background. And Job's a great example of that, where he, like you said, he cannot see anything in front of him. My eyes shall see good no more, he said in chapter 7. And it's like, actually, there are things going on in the background you cannot see.
I'm wanting to hit this twofold. One, we got to understand, if you're struggling, the enemy's going to want you to think in your struggle, it's just you.
Oh, yeah.
You're weak. No one else goes through this. You break down, there are many superhero people in the Bible that struggle with suicide.
Elijah comes to mind.
We got to talk about that. Thing number 2, we got to say, and I'm going back to understanding. Mm-hmm. Jessie's hooked on the show Chosen, and I cannot wait to start the show. I cannot wait to run through it. I love, you give me a depiction of Christ. We were talking last night about the Passion of Christ. They was mentioning it from the pulpit. Any of that stuff, I eat up.
Sure.
I just like seeing it. Me and Jessie were going down Highway 11 the other day, and there's this one large stretch of farmland. And I got so emotional because I was thinking about this show Chosen that Jessie talks about a lot. And there were these rays coming down. And I was thinking, out in the distance, at a point in time, in a landscape, there was a man, and it was the full divinity of God. It was Christ. Mm. And I look around at this world, and I look at creation of Christ. But he was here as a man.
Yes.
And you may think, I don't understand. And if I don't understand, God don't understand. He does. He was here. He walked. And I was looking at all this grass, and I always look out. And Zach, you may do this, Jess, you may do this. When you see a beautiful sight, like when I see the ocean, I'm like, God made that.
Oh, yeah.
God made that. We go to the Smoky Mountains, we go to the ocean, we see pretty mountains. We live in the mountains. If you ever come and visit us at MDT Church Oasis Ministries, go look at the mountains. It's beautiful here. And I see all this is created by, but I never think of it walked by. And it makes me emotional because I think of my God came here as a man and he understands me.
Yeah.
He feels what I'm going through. So the enemy is the enemy of lies, deceit, tricks, and trap. God is the God of understanding and grace. So whatever you're going through, you back up. Don't let Bildad lie to you. Don't let someone trick you, bring in discernment. No, you serve a God of love, you serve a God of grace, and you serve a God that understands you.
Yes.
And you back up and you straighten your shoulders and say, it may be hard to walk, but I will walk. It may be hard to pray. I'm going to pray. I may not understand everything, but I'm going to do my best. I talked to a guy on the phone the other day, and when I was on the phone, I said, sir, here's what I need you to do. Because he told me, he said, I don't want to offend you and treat you like you're ignorant, so I don't know if I'm saying too much or not enough. I said, here's what I need you to do. Here's what I need you to do, Theron. Pretend I'm a novice, and then back up and understand you're not pretending. And understand I don't know nothing. And he laughed and laughed. But in your Christian walk sometimes, say, okay, sometimes I'm overcomplicating this. Sometimes I'm just making things too deep. God, sometimes I'm just going to admit, I don't understand what's happening right now. I'm trying to relate to this book. I'm trying to relate to this story. But God, in my personal situation, it's a glass darkly. I don't understand. But God, I tell you what I do understand. This isn't the end.
Amen.
Where I'm at point here, there's still more time to go. If there's breath in me, no man's promised tomorrow. If you wake up tomorrow, it's because He chose to.
Yes.
If you wake up in the morning, it's because God has more plan. It's because God has more purpose and God has more future.
Amen.
Coming to a close here. So thankful for you guys tuning in with us. Please tune in next week. Things pick up from here. I guess we'll be doing 11 through 15 potentially. Maybe more, maybe less. We'll see where we lined up. So thankful for Jessica doing these with you.
Me too.
Such an honor for me. Thank you. God bless you.
God bless you.